So it's been 18 months since the swearing in of the new president, Ballot Tinubu's administration, and another 2 full years before the next elections. Yet the Nigeria's environment is charged politically, and even the race for 2027 is already renting the air. But looking at the past 18 months, is it fair to say that the electorate has governed as what they call governance value for their votes in terms of quality, good governance at all levels? Let's turn attention to Arise political editor Sumner Sambo in our Abuja studios. A great evening to you, Sumner. And of course, I'm sure you know, sometimes when I get lost in the political maze, I always touch base with you to understand what the politicians are doing. A great evening to you in Abuja.
Thank you so much, Bosun.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good to see you, my friend and colleague. How much of governance, real governance, did you see on the ground in the year 2024 after that high-pitched fever elections of last year that brought President Tinubu and other state governors and others into office?
Well, just to add that 2024 was a test of the policies of the APC-led federal government led by President Bola Tinubu. In 2023, yes, he was just coming into power and some of his policies were not yet clear. But in 2024, we could see in full swing some of the political decisions being taken by the Tinubu presidency. And I can tell you it's been one of mixed grill because some of the policies have been very controversial, very, very controversial. And we have thought that settling down into policy making in this year, he would avoid lots of controversies so that he'll focus more on governance. But we've seen even political decisions that, economic decisions that are not supposed to be entangled in politics, like that of the tax reforms being entangled in web of politics. And of course, you've seen that those 4 bills are stuck in the National Assembly. And of course, the National Economic Council, which is chaired by its own Vice President, Kashim Shettima, with the 68 governors, had to actually ask that policy, those bills that emanated from the executive should be set aside for proper consultation. So we have thought that some of these bills that were emanating from the executive branch of government would have gone through major consultations and all of that before being, brought to the limelight. But of course, don't forget that in Nigeria too, almost everything you tend to do as a president will be politicized. And that's the more reason why people think that President Tinubu, having been a former federal lawmaker himself, senator in the aborted Third Republic, that he would have been able to use his experience as a former federal lawmaker, and then with his Vice President Kashim Shettima being a senator too, having served in the Senate. And then, of course, President Tinubu's wife, First Lady Oluremi, being herself a former federal lawmaker, a senator too. With these people, including his chief of staff being former Speaker of the House of Representatives, that he wouldn't have some of this turmoil that he seems to be having right now. But of course, it looks like the presidency itself is not communicating very well. So we've seen those policies encountering lots of problems, and you would agree with me that there needs to be more informed decision-making and carrying, different groups of people into the decision-making or the thinking of the president along. There are lots of reforms that the president wants to undertake, but of course the voters who brought him there need to be properly put, alongside some of the policies that he's making. Because, take for example, just on Monday, former president of the Senate, Ahmad Lawan, who coincidentally had contested the APC presidential ticket with President Tinubu, complained actually that Nigerians are in severe pains and that they are facing serious challenges of poverty that have gone on to become humanitarian, to be of humanitarian proportion. And of course, that's why we had the end hunger, end bad governance protests and all of that. And just after that, you could hear incumbent Senate President Godswill Akpabio saying that if not that Tinubu actually took certain decisions, that Nigeria would have been on its knees. So, well, there's a lot of politicking ongoing, especially with economic decisions but the voters deserve more. That's what they keep saying.
Yeah,
Some of these decisions could have been taken in such a way that there's more consultation.
There's some going, at least by the presidential result, that was 8.794 million votes, roughly 36.61%. To get President Tinubu into office. Would you say that the level of governance, that's for him, and of course goes across states as well, in terms of the numbers, from federal to state and local governments, do you think governance delivery has been up to value to all the campaign? If you put it side by side, those campaign promises and the votes of 2023 into 2024, do you think you can say voters are getting value for their votes?
Well, in the sort of outcome that we had in the 2023 general election, there's no how you wouldn't have a rancorous presidency like we currently have, because you would understand, just like you said previously, President Tinubu just had 36.6% of the votes. You had Atiku Abubakar having 29% of the votes. You had Peter Obi having 25% of the votes. So if you add the votes of the opposition, Labour Party and PDP together, you'll see that, I mean, that would have actually given them an edge if they had united. So with 36% of the overall votes,
so there was that's a winner.
Well, they didn't,
yes,
and they are suffering for it right now. And so because of that, Tinubu is also suffering from that, because if he had won with maybe more than half of the votes, about 50-something%, it would have given him a clearer presidency. Yes, the APC is in control of the National Assembly, both chambers, but nonetheless...
He won.
Yes.
Those who lost went to court. He's been affirmed. So, would you say that in terms of governance, so you got 6 months of last year, 1 full year, 18 months, would you say he's delivering value for this votes? 8.794726 million votes of Nigerians. One man, one vote. One woman, one vote. Yes.
Yes. I mean, he's been trying his best to actually deliver, good governance, but you see that some of the policies, some of the policies are not fully coordinated because of the anxiety that the president has found himself. Right now, you go to social media, you go to mainstream journalism and all of that, they do not actually allow the president to heave a sigh of relief. And that's because, 1/3 of the votes is what he actually won. So if you take a critical look at it, you see that it's affecting policy making in one way or the other. And that's why I'm saying that there's need for more consultation when you emerge with this sort of votes that President Tinubu came to power with.
Are you asking him to do a bit of what has been done in South Africa?
Broad-based consultation. I mean, if you have 36%,
or bring opposition to the political party to deliver value for votes. He won the vote.
And what's wrong with that? I mean, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Because when late President Musa Yar'Adua came into government and he had issues like this, he brought the PPA into power. I mean, he formed the government of national unity. So you see, the idea is that the presidency led by President Tinubu would have wanted to play this kind of game if indeed he came into power with a huge number of votes. But since he didn't come into power with a huge number of votes, when he's taking some certain economic decisions, like the tax reform bills, like the petroleum subsidy, and some of these other top decisions that he took, he would have to form a broad-based coalition. Now, the voters majority of the voters are confused, including those who voted the APC, as to if indeed this is what he really meant by restructuring when he was campaigning last year. Now, you take a look at the cost of feeding within the APC-led federal government under Tinubu, you see that it has gone very, very high. The economic reforms are very, very necessary. We agree that they are very, very necessary, but it should have been based on broad-based consultation. And President Tinubu has been known as someone who used to do this before he got into power. But people are even confused what exactly has led to him not reaching out so much to the opposition, so much those who don't agree with him, which is now affecting governance and other policies. Because even some people he has had to put in power, the delivery of good governance is actually not being taken to fruition the way we had expected it. Look at the power sector, for example. A lot of people had anticipated so much, but we've been having these constant power shutdowns every now and then. But you take a look at another side too of the energy sector. In terms of petroleum, he seems to be having some wins. And why is that coming? Because of recent, he has discovered that if there's no broad-based coalition of ideas, just bringing in the reforms and the economic restructuring alone will not be able to deliver the dividends of democracy. And from next year, from 2025, Bosin, elections for 2027 have started again. So the president will be distracted. And that's why you see that some of the restructuring that he had promised, he's now taking a time to have a rethink. He's now taking his time to have a rethink because he could have done this much earlier, as at early last year, but he didn't. But it's good to know that he's beginning to have a reconsideration. And if you look at the 2025 budget, you see that he has made some provisions to actually douse tension.
Oh, great. So, well, the whole thing, we just have to thank you. Look, just look like when folks are playing politics with good governance and those things you really explain. But again, when you get into the political discussions, it's always very deep as always. But that's what we got time for tonight. You know, I'm always going to check base with you as always. I always do, isn't it? Thank you so much, Sambo, for those insights into Nigeria's politics and governance as we wound down 2024. Thank you so much, Rice Political Editor in Abuja.